I remember having that moment of thinking, and it was probably for the first time in my life to this extent, I may not live through this. There is a possibility, depending on how this goes, I may not make it out to the other side of this situation.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So I think today's podcast is going to be a little bit different to kind of, I mean, that's kind of how we start a lot of our podcasts, isn't it?
Right. How so today, Claire?
Right. Well, I think that when we were just trying to decide what we were going to record, we normally get on and I mean, anyone who listens to us knows that we have a long list of podcast ideas. And I have a long list of like saved out TikTok videos that I haven't necessarily named that those are podcast ideas yet. We've got a lot of potential episodes to record. And so normally what we do is we jump on and we kind of look at some of the ideas and see what resonates with us, see if there's anything that's happened this week that's particularly big for either of us, that feels like a good thing to talk about. And we go, okay, we're going to pick this topic today, and we go off and we do an episode on that. And the truth of the matter is that we struggled to do that today. And so we wanted to kind of get on here and kind of have the conversation with you. We wanted you to be a part of the conversation, because I actually think that the conversation that we were just having is actually the conversation that we want to have on the podcast. So we kind of like cut our conversation short when I'm like, let's just get on. So we've got no idea where this is going to go. Who the hell knows where we're going to end up? That's kind of the fun of it. And I think part of the reason is that, like what kind of sparked this is that we talked about in previous podcast episodes, I'm currently in a singing competition, and, part of what we do, because the singing competition is designed to raise money for a nonprofit in town. Part of what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to share about it and ask people to donate and ask people to do all these things. And the nonprofit, I think all nonprofits are important. Most nonprofits are important. But I think that there are times when people are really struggling, when certain things may be a little bit of a higher priority than others. And the nonprofit that I'm in the singing competition for probably isn't like my first thing of like, oh, when things are tough, this is the first thing that you need. I mean, even just looking at it from a needs point of view, like this nonprofit kind of focuses maybe on the trunk of the tree. A lot of the nonprofits that are my first priority tend to be like the roots of the tree, and is specifically foundation function. Like, how do we help people with like shelter and food and like staying like physically safe and all those sorts of things. So it also felt a little bit like weird to be like asking people to donate at a time when there's lots of people struggling in so many different ways right now. There's lots of things that are going on, like the cost of living is going up, like like food prices are going up. There's a lot going on in the world, and people are really having a tough time at the moment. And so saying, yay, I dressed up in like a funny blingy crown, which was fucking fabulous, by the way, and we'll might get into that into a future in a future episode. But I had like a funny outfit on, and I sung a song. It was all about having a good time. And the day of the event this week, I remember thinking, like, day of, should I be changing the song that I'm singing? This doesn't feel like an appropriate song to be singing right now, because of everything. There's so many things that are out of our control that are going on in the world. And we'll get into why that is appropriate in a future episode. Like we're going to get to that, because I think that is an important part of the conversation. But today, like, we were like, well, I feel like we should do an episode on like what to do when you're struggling, or what to do when like things are kind of like out of your control and you don't know what to do about them. And the thing is, we've recorded those episodes before, like, and we'll put in the show notes links to those. I mean, not the second part. We're kind of going to get a little bit more into that today. But we've done an episode on what to do when it feels like the world is falling apart, what to do when you're really struggling. And it's like, well, we don't want to be recording the same episode over and over again. But also, if we recorded something like 100 episodes ago, we also don't want to be like, okay, it's in there somewhere. I'm sure people will find it, because if like the stuff that's kind of coming out right now, we want what we're sharing at the moment to be relevant to where people are at right now. So we just started having this conversation. I was like, I kind of feel like this is the conversation. Like, how do you focus on like business as usual when it doesn't feel like anything is usual? Like everything feels outside of the norm. Everything feels chaotic. Everything feels like out of control. There's lots of these big stuff happening in the world that we don't necessarily have any control over. And what do we do in moments like that? And how do we navigate moments like that? How do we resource ourselves to be able to deal with moments like that? How do we build our resilience? And if you don't know about resilience, we've got episodes on resilience we've already done. We'll put links to that in the show notes. So we just wanted to kind of come on and have this conversation, because I felt like this is part of what you need to see, is that we don't always have the answers. We don't always go, yes, we know exactly what to do, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to put out there. And sometimes it's difficult for us to know what the right thing to say is at the right time. And so that's the reason we're like, okay, let's have this conversation on the air, because I mean, I don't know about you, but there are a lot of things right now that we talk about on our podcast that are really important to life in general, that right now seem a little insignificant in the broader context of what's happening. I mean, we don't want to get into, there's so many things going on in the world. I mean, we could do an hour's podcast just talking about all the things that are going on in the world, not even scratch the surface. But like,
January's been a very long year. It's been a very long year.
I've seen so many TikToks about that. I've seen so many memes about that. It's like, oh, it is so true. Like, I mean, and I know it's not January when you're hearing this, because this won't be out until after January. But it's January 28th here, but I feel like it's been January for like months and months and months and months and months. But so let's give an example of something that is huge and major that's going on right now, and is in the kind of present time as we're recording, and that could be like literally life-threatening, is that there is a huge winter storm that is about to come across the US, and it could cause significant loss of life. Like, there are areas that are going to be potentially without power for days and days and days and days. There are people, and it could cause issues. I mean, I already have friends who are in Minnesota right now. They've already had pipes burst. They've already had like exploding tree warnings. They've had, it's already kind of chaotic with the weather we've had to this point. And now we're going to get more on top of it. I saw a video yesterday. I can't remember where it was. I want to say it was Kentucky. I don't remember exactly where it was. Maybe it was Tennessee. I think it was Tennessee. And they're like, how is it raining? And it's a video panning. There's snow everywhere. And it is raining. It's not snowing. It is not sleeting. It is raining on top of the snow. And it looks like, as somebody who used to ice skate every day, it looks like an ice rink. Because literally, it's white snow still covering everything. It's not melting. It's not dissipating. But it's got this now glossy layer of rain, which is obviously freezing onto. And you're like looking at it going, is this it? Is this the apocalypse? Is this it? Like, are zombies coming out of it that's next? Like, what is happening in the world?
My bingo card isn't big enough for this shit. Like, when Claire was talking about exploding trees the other day, like, there was a point in time where I would have been like, oh my word, what are you talking, like, and been like, oh, I was like, sounds about right. Sounds about right. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Exploding trees. There it is. B5 exploding trees.
Bingo.
Good.
Yeah. But yeah,
and not to make like a joke about it, but it like,
it seems ridiculous.
On the grand spectrum of life, what in the actual fuck? Like,
it's funny actually, because one of the singers, the singer who actually kind of, I think she closed the night. Oh no, she didn't close the night. There was like, she was towards the end of the night on Monday at this event. She sang the Four Non Blondes "What's Up," which is actually one of Serena's karaoke songs. So I kind of think of Serena every time I hear it. But that like that, I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And everyone was like, "Yep, that's it. That's the mood. Like we're on the right page right now."
Yep.
It's chaotic. So and when we're in this position, like we're in that. What do we do right now? Do we do an episode that we have in our list that doesn't really feel like it meets the moment? Or do we record another episode of something that we've already got the information out there? And I mean, knowing us and knowing the amount of content that we have, chances are we're going to say something different because, I mean, we couldn't recreate a podcast. We've tried this before. I was thinking about this morning. Remember the days when we used to be in a position where we used to have to hit record on an actual recorder and we had to make sure all the various things were in place. The number of times we forgot to hit record on the actual recorder.
Or turn on a mic.
Or like there were so many things that used to go wrong. I mean, our setup now makes it a lot easier for it to go well and a lot harder for us to make those kind of mistakes. But we've been there. We've tried to re-record episodes that we've like literally just recorded and we've tried to repeat it and it's gone completely in another direction. So I know it would be different.
And I can't remember what I said 5 minutes ago. So what I said in episode 27...
half the time we can't remember what the end of the current sentence we're actually speaking is going to be, let alone what we said 5 minutes ago, let alone what we said 5 hours ago, let alone what we said 5 months or 5 years ago. Like, so like it's interesting times. And I'm like, I don't want to just put a podcast out there for the sake of putting a podcast out there to be like, oh, this is like, we're supposed to be podcasting business as usual. Let's do what we're supposed to do.
Meet your needs. Everything will be fine, which...
Yes, and
a big and
yeah. Like we always say, life be lifing. Like and the and I just have if you're watching on the video podcast, you'll have noticed we have a little interloper on this episode. It's the first time Daz has ever made his appearance. I suddenly realized I'd forgotten he was there until he moved a minute ago. So if you want a little peekaboo at Serena's cat, jump on the video podcast because today is the day he decided to hang out on the back of the chair where Serena records.
You're on YouTube.
Yeah.
You're on YouTube, buds.
He's like, what's YouTube? Does it come with treats?
Good thing he cannot hear through my earbuds.
Right. So anyway, little cat cameo to one side for a second. Like, I mean, what was your thought? Like when I was like, I remember we were having this conversation, you were like, yeah, but we've already recorded that. I don't want to just repeat it. But also like right now, it doesn't feel like the time to just be like, this is what we're doing. This is what we always do. And so it's like, we just want to name it. Like, cause like we're all feeling it. It's not just like, if you're feeling it like at home listening to this going, shit, this is really shitty right now. Yeah. Valid.
Yep. It's like unprecedented
levels of shitty.
Yeah, it really is. And when Claire was talking, I was just, even in this moment, it's like, yeah, we know if you meet your needs, things are going to be better for you just because you're going to have the foundation, the support you need, being able to give to yourself. And there are some things like in the grander context that it's like, what can I possibly do? Like drinking that water or, giving myself the self-love. It just doesn't feel like it's going to do what I need it to. And we want to say it will help. And we also want to acknowledge, like, in the grand scheme of things, we know it's like, it feels like throwing a drop in the bucket, but eventually those drops
drop in the bucket, drop in the ocean, like I think is more accurate. And now Daz is really making his presence known. Oh, hey, we got to see his pretty face. And now he's gone. There we go. It was short-lived, but it was sweet while it was happening. Yeah, sorry. Drop in the bucket, you were saying.
Yeah, it can feel like we're talking about a drop in the bucket here. And Yeah, in some instances we are, because what you have to do is keep dropping in that bucket, keep dropping in your own bucket, because the one thing that we can have influence on is how, like, is meeting our own needs. And it's like, it's really important to remember that. And like Claire said, we also don't want to be like, meet your needs, things will be fine, because we meet our needs. Well, we all meet our needs every second of every day. Claire and I are consciously
meet or
meeting
mask our needs. We all meet or mask our needs every second of every day. Yeah, that's everything we do every second of every day is done to meet or mask our needs. We may not necessarily, and we may not be meeting them in great ways, but yeah, that is a component for everybody. But I think you were kind of speaking to the fact that we're more intentional and we know what the needs are and how to meet them. So we may be a little bit more effective than most when it comes to this.
Yes. And life is still a fucking dumpster fire for us too. Like, and that's, yes. And we want to acknowledge that, because, you know, sometimes it's easy for us to come on here and have the perception be like, oh, they have it all together. Like, it all just works because, you know, something goes wrong and they meet their needs and then they carry on. And yes, and like, we carry on with the same, no, I'm going to cancel, clear, delete that, because same ocean, different boat type of deal. So we're all experiencing the fucked upness in different ways and to different extents, but we're all in it. And we just really wanted to acknowledge that we're all in it, and that we're not just here being like lip service,
business as usual.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of people, companies that are just like, nope, none of this is happening, or, you know, they put the blinkers on and they look straight forward, and that they think that it's actually protecting themselves. They think that masking and pretending these things aren't happening, or being like, nope, doesn't involve me, nope, I don't see this, nope, I'm just right here, sorry, me and like
my microphone, apparently
my microphone, bringing it all into the loop here. And that's impacting your needs negatively so much, because what's gonna happen, like, eventually the mask comes off, eventually the wall comes down, eventually there's like a little sliver of reality that comes through the blinker, and once that is realized, you get completely taken out at the needs
crashing in. Yes, it comes with
and I'm speaking from experience here. I've done this many times over the course of my life, where I'm like, it's fine, and then all of a sudden I'm like, it's not fucking fine, and I've done nothing to even make it even okay-ish at this point. And then you gotta start building up from puddle, which
And also, I think it's really important for like you listening to realize that we're not being like, everything is fine as soon as you meet your needs, because it's not. Like, that doesn't make the world fine. It doesn't make everything around us fine. It means that we've got a little bit more resource in us to be able to start to contribute to the world becoming a little bit more fine. Like, we're going to help to move the needle in that direction. But I feel like I didn't want to be like, come on here and do another episode which was just like, here's what you need to do to take care of yourself and take care of your needs, or take care of your needs in take care of your relationships, or take care of like whatever. Like, we've got a bunch of episodes on that, and we will have a bunch more episodes of that coming. Like, that's not going away. But also, I do think that it's really important that we acknowledge what is happening right now, and that we are every bit a part of that as much as everybody else is. And just because we are focusing on the things that we can do and what we can, and that's, I think that's the thing, is that when it comes to challenging times, we all have a different role to play, and there are different things that some people can do and some people can't do, and we choose to focus on the things that we can do. What can we create? How can we support? There's a reason that, like, when all the COVID lockdowns were happening, like, we were in the process of a program launch when the lockdowns happened. Like, literally, we were doing webinars to help people understand about what we do, and we canceled everything. And I was like, this is not the right time. It's not the right time to to sell to people. It's not the right time to get people to focus on something that's going to require a lot of kind of mental and emotional energy, because there's a lot of mental and emotional energy being spent elsewhere. And so we decided we were just going to focus on what we could do to support the people that we could. We focused on our Facebook group, and we had daily dance parties. We would literally get women from all over the world together every day at the same time for 3 songs. We would dance in our living rooms together, and then we would go on about our day. We'd do a little kind of connection thing so that we could all feel connected at a time when everyone felt very kind of disconnected and distant from everybody that was close to them. And that was what felt right. And interestingly enough, like the stuff that we are doing right now, like focusing on the podcast and focusing on the content in the programs, so that we can provide resources so that when people are really struggling, that there's somewhere they can go to get support and help with that. That's what we can do. That's what we're focusing on right now. And so it's really important when things are chaotic and things seem like beyond your control. What is the thing that you can do something about? And maybe the thing you can do something about is being there for your community, and maybe being there for your family. It may be, there's any one of a million things.
I would suggest starting out with being there for yourself, because that's going to spread out to all of the things. Because if I'm not like, I have a very small circle in my everyday life. You just saw one of them is Daz. I have Joe, my husband, and me, and that's my day to day. And if I'm not giving to myself, if I'm not resourcing myself and doing what I can for myself, sometimes that's just getting out of bed. Sometimes it's taking a day of rest when I have had plans. We had our, I think it was our last episode about, you know, how to say no when a yes changes to a no. And it's like, sometimes it's being like, actually, this doesn't serve me. Because when I do that, that means that it's not going to have the negative impact to my needs wouldn't have a knock-on effect to my small circle. And if things are harmonious in my little bubble, then I am more resourced to step out of that bubble and then help on a wider scale. And I think that's something a lot of times in these types of situations we're in, just on the larger scale, like when things are out of our control, we think of we see the bigger picture and we're like, how can I help this bigger picture? And sometimes we need to just kind of go in and go to the smaller picture, be like, what can I do in this smaller picture, which then grows and grows and grows, and it grows naturally. Because if you try to step into the bigger picture unresourced, that picture, the chances of it like collapsing onto you, like, I don't want to say it's inevitable, but there's a really high probability that you can't pour from an empty cup. I know it's one of those like age-old kind of cheesy sayings, but like you really can't. So focusing on what can I do for me? What can I do for my bubble? What can I do for my larger bubble? Like, kind of like the orbits, like you start in with you as the sun and then move out.
Absolutely. And it's like, I mean, I think that people think that we've got these like super duper like tools that we pull out, like, so when like the world gets chaotic and feels out of control, that we're doing all these like big things of this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, at times like this, we go back to basics. Like, interestingly enough, like this week alone, like there's been a lot going on in the world this week. And it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. It's so easy to feel, oh God, this is a lot. And so this week I went back to basics and I was like, okay, I need my morning routine. I need to start my morning in a way, because I got into a habit of like waking up and I would start checking social media to see what was going on in the world. That would be the first thing I would see as soon as I got out of bed. Like my nervous system like had an onslaught. Like I've just woken up and it's like, oh, the world. It's like, whoa, that's a lot. But because I wanted to know what was going on, I kind of got into a routine of doing that. And I was like, you know what? I need to shift this up because I know that that's not supporting me. I need to support my nervous system before my nervous system has to deal with the world. So I've taken to going to bed a little earlier and getting up a little earlier, generally speaking. And then I start the morning. I do something to move my body, and I do a yoga practice it's something that I've followed online for years. And I do it in my own space. And it's the good thing with that is it's not just physical movement. It's about the entirety of the yogic practice. So there is breath work in there, and there is, yes, there's the postures, but there's also the mantras, and there's the meditation. There's different components to it. That means it's supporting me in a kind of holistic way. I mean, there's all of these things that are supporting me. So I tend to do that first thing in the morning. Then I do an additional meditation because that's something I know, again, it will support my nervous system. It gets me energetically into a place which I want to be in for the day. And then I will do my needs practice, and I do my needs practice the same way as we teach everybody else. It's literally small baby steps. What are the small things I can do to take care of myself today? So I know how to resource myself, and I know how to support myself. And then once I know how to do that, then I can then show up for my work. I can be here. And like, if I hadn't done those things, I wouldn't be in the space I'm in right now, talking to you on the podcast right now, because I would probably be in a little bit more of my nervous system would be a little bit more dysregulated, because I'd be just, oh God, I've gone into the world. Oh shit, everything's going on in the world. Okay. Now I've got to work, breathe. Whew. And that's when you end up tending to mask, because it's like, you've got to try and present this idea of like, I'm fine, everything's fine, and I'm just going to carry on and doing as we do. And like, we don't do that. Like, we've never done that. And we want to be real about how we do it, in order that you can see the ways that you can take. And I'm not saying, like, the one thing that we always say is that, yes, we focus on meeting our needs, but the way that I meet my needs that works for me is not the same way that's going to work for Serena, is not necessarily the same way that's going to work for you. I know some people, they get up, they have a cup of coffee, they go out and sit on their deck first thing in the morning. I know that some people, they go for a walk. It's something I also like to do when it's not cold outside, cold by our standards. I mean, you can tell that it's winter has arrived in Florida because we're both in sweaters right now. That's not a common thing. But like, you find the ways of supporting you that really work for you, that really work for your nervous system, that really work for your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your energetic well-being, and start there. Because once, as Serena says, like, once you start there, then you have the ability to move outside of that and to step forward. And I mean, interestingly enough, like, I think there's a good example that from I've spoken about on the podcast before, that from my own experience, where I was dealing with something that was massive, that was completely outside of my control, and I'd never dealt with before. And literally what Serena described happened kind of naturally, because I knew how to take care of my needs first and foremost, and the rest kind of unfolded from there. And that was when we dealt with Hurricane Irma. Like, talk about like something massive, out of your control, chaos, lots of uncertainty, no idea what's going to happen with the world, and no ability to change it. Like, it just is, and you have to figure out how to navigate around it. And I remember after I come back and I dealt with everything that happened after Irma, which we'll get into in a second. I remember speaking to a friend of mine who used to work with me on the universal needs. And I was like, I wish I'd done my needs practice as I was going through it, because I think it would have been a really good case study. And she was like, Claire, I literally watched you live the needs practice as you went through the experience. And I was like, I might not have written it down, but that's exactly what I did. Like, when you find out there's a hurricane coming, first thing you do, deal with your foundation function need. I need to make sure that I have water. I need to make sure I've got food that I'm going to be able to eat if the power goes out. I need to make sure that I'm going to physically stay somewhere that is, where I'm physically going to stay safe. I mean, that's kind of getting into security need as well. But when we're talking about like the physical needs, like, I need a roof over my head. I need all of those sorts of things. So we secured the place that we were in. We got all the supplies that we needed, and we got out on the road. And it was like, okay, so once we knew that we had everything that we needed and we got out and we knew we were somewhere safe, at that point we started to connect with people around us and let them know what was going on. I mean, obviously I didn't just disappear. I was kind of letting the close people know what was going on as it was unfolding, but I then expanded beyond that. Like I let people at a wider level know, okay, here's what's going on, we're okay, we're in this place, we're evacuated right now, we're going to be here, and at that point I acknowledged how I was feeling. Like that was the big thing for me. It was like, okay, I was in like deal with the situation mode, which is a lot of time what happens when these big things are happening that are outside of our control. You have to deal with the situation first, and that deal with the situation often looks at those kind of first three needs of the universal needs tree: your foundation, function, your security, and your love and connection. And then from there, I had a lot of feelings about what I'd just gone through and what we were currently going through. And then I was like, acknowledged how I felt, and then emotion, experience, expression. Then I processed how I felt. And then, so it was like, I literally walked through it step by step. So the interesting thing was, there was this huge thing, and it was all, I mean, it was a big thing, like evacuating to somewhere else. But a lot of it was like, I went and got water. I had water. I went and got food. I had food. Like these were not like, I did a 3-hour class on something. These were like very basic, very simple things, but they were the things that allowed me to get to the next point in the process, where it wasn't like, okay, check, I've taken care of my water, my food, now I don't need to worry about that anymore. Like, I mean, that's the reason that we use the tree as a model. It's not like you do one and then like you focus on the next one. It's like you still allow that one to continue being maintained, but now because that is supported, you now have the capacity to start looking at other things. You start have the capacity to start looking at other needs. And when I got back to Key West, again, firstly, I took care of the place that I was staying and made sure that I had somewhere to stay and that we had power, and which we didn't have for several days, and like chainsawed down the tree that had fallen down on the house and made sure that everything was safe to kind of live in. I remember dealing with the fridge and freezer. They didn't tell us that we had to empty before you evacuate for a hurricane. I cannot tell you the episode of CSI it looked like I came back to, and yeah, lots of bugs is all I'll say. Gross. So I dealt with all of that, and then once I was then taken care of and I was supported, then I was like, okay, I actually went into the branches of the tree and I went into volunteering mode. I'm like, how can I support others? And I went and I volunteered. And so it's like I took care of me first, and I made sure that I was okay, and then I took care of like, okay, what needs to happen for our household. And once that was taken care of, then it was like, okay, who around me needs help? Like Serena and I were supporting each other. We were messaging each other. We had people in our like slightly wider group that we're like, who needs what? Like people were trying to send like re-entry stickers because you can't get back into the Keys if your vehicle doesn't have a certain sticker on it saying, yes, I live here, let me in. And we had people who were, I mean, they were like, somebody broke into the house that we were staying in on our request, per our request, to make sure that it was livable inside, because we were hours away, and we're like, can you just check that we've got something to come back to, otherwise we might need to get some stuff done before we come back. So we were then taking care of each other in this slightly wider group, and then we looked at like, okay, then that was the wider community. It was like, okay, now I'm taking care of them, my people are okay, let's look next step was, okay, how do we volunteer in the community? I went and volunteered in the worst hit areas. And it's like, this is how it's important for us to do. Like, we start with the basics, you go back to basics, and you take care of yourself in the best way you can. And then you look at the people around you and you go, okay, I'm now functioning. I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my own needs so I continue to function in the midst of everything that's going on. And then once I can function, then I can help other people. And once I can help other people, and I make sure the people around me are functioning, okay, now we're all functioning. Now what can we do outside of that? And that's the reason that at times like this, community is so important.
I think an important part that you kind of, you mentioned and then you quickly, swiftly moved on, is throughout that process. And like when we get into any of these situations we can't control, something that we both do, but what I saw you do throughout the Hurricane Irma thing was acknowledging what was actually happening, acknowledging how shitty it was, how scared you were, actually naming those things, not putting on a brave face and just getting it done. It was getting the stuff done and being like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. Wow, I am so scared. Wow, I like,
Right.
you know, all of those things. And then, as Claire said, moving to that emotional experience and expression and actually processing it once there was like not necessarily in the middle of it, although I did see that happen, some like kind of quick little, I don't want to say like little baby processes, but it was like, okay, I can get through this here. I can get through this here. But taking the time to be like, okay, like that was a lot. This is a lot. And like, it's clear, just like the exhale and breathing through it and moving through it so you can get to that next step. Because I think a lot of times, especially in these kinds of situations, people do put on the brave face. They just try to get through it. They don't acknowledge. They're like, if I acknowledge it, it becomes really real and I can't deal with that. So they don't process it as it's happening before they get to the next step. They may have gotten through to the point where they can help their friends, but if they haven't processed the impact that's happened to themselves at the end of it, then again we come back to what I had said earlier. You get to the end and you're like, oh fuck,
collapse.
Like there's all of the things. So making sure that all of those things are happening continuously and in
parallel.
Thank you. It was like, like it's a simple
rooting
word
around
I
in your
use all
head.
the
I'm
time.
like, oh, I think it's this word.
That it happens in parallel with like the steps that you're taking, because it's fine. It feels good on a certain level to be able to help the wider community, but if you haven't processed the fact that you just went through your own shitstorm and are still like being part of that wider community, means that you're still part of the storm that affected you so much on a personal level. And I think a lot of times we forget that, like the people who have the capacity to help sometimes choose to and then they forget that they're part of the bigger picture, in the sense that it's happening to them as well, maybe to a different extent, maybe in a different way. But it is very important to realize, like, when something on a bigger scale like that happens, it's happening to all of us. Like,
well, and I think that there's like, I'm going to yes and what you've just said, completely agree with everything that Serena's just said. And Claire's favorite word, nuance. It's important to like find the moments where you can process as you're doing it. Like I vividly, like if you look at the hurricane example, now bear in mind, I'm a woman from England. Like we don't deal with hurricane. I'd never dealt with, I mean, I think we had something that technically qualified as a hurricane in 1987. By this standard, by Florida standards, it would be like a blustery day. Like it would be like, oh, okay, it's a bit windy out there. Like that's kind of like we dealt with some, and in the UK, I mean, it was chaos. So we're like, I remember we had a fence around our garden that was all panels, and I think we may have one panel that was still up by the end of that. Everything else had come down. There were trees down everywhere. It was chaos because we're not used to that kind of weather. But I remember when we were talking to, like in the early stages, because I was like, I don't know, is this really that big of a deal? Or is it like something we have to worry about? Like, how do you deal with this? What do you do in this situation? I like, literally had no clue. And we were talking to other friends, and I remember one of our friends was saying, like, if you think about where we live at the end of an island chain, a very long island chain, and there is one road in and one road out. It's the same road that goes in and out. And a lot of that road is single carriageway. And what that means is that when you evacuate from here, there's only one way you can go. Well, technically, there's another way. We actually had friends who had a boat and they disappeared the other direction. Then they had a hurricane come at them as well. So it was like, there's not an easy way out of here, especially in storm season, because you never know what's going to happen as far as the weather is concerned. And this is what they said to us. It's like, when you evacuate, you have to continually watch the weather, because storms can move, storms can change. They can be like, oh, it seems like they're going this way, and all of a sudden they pivot. We had another storm a few years ago that we really didn't, it was a category 1. Nobody thought it was going to be that big of a deal, and it wobbled at the last minute and came way closer to the island than we expected. It was terrifying, I'm not going to lie. Like that was a scary experience, being here through that storm. So I didn't really know. And what they'd said was you have to be really careful with the storms moving, is that they had a situation where they had evacuated into the path of the storm. So now bear in mind, you've got one road in and one road out. If you are on that road and the storm comes towards you, there is literally nowhere to go. You literally are a sitting duck. Sitting probably sitting flamingo, or maybe a sitting rooster for the Keys. Like either way, there's nothing you can do. You have to just sit and you deal with the storm coming at you. Now, that's scary in this situation, but that also can happen further up, like on the mainland. All of a sudden it can like take a hard turn, and all of a sudden you can be on a road, on a highway, in a car, dealing with a category 2, 3, 4, 5 storm rolling over the top of you. That's not safe. And there's real risk to life in that situation. And I remember vividly, like when we were talking to them about it, I was like, never would have even occurred to me that was something I needed to worry about. And I remember the day that we were packing up to leave, like what had happened was that I'd found out about, it was funny because the week before, if you've lived here for a while now, you've got an idea about storm systems coming about a week or two out, like a week to 10 days normally. You get an idea that could be something heading your direction. We'd all been at trivia the Thursday before, and I remember hearing some like talk. We were on a long table, so we weren't all part of all conversations. I remember hearing like bits and pieces of a conversation about hurricane. I remember hearing Irma, and I was like, I didn't really think too much about it because nobody seemed worried. There wasn't anything, but it was like there were rumblings. Live in the tropics long enough, especially live in the Keys long enough, you learn to pay attention to those rumblings and start watching the weather. I didn't know anything about that at that point in time. I'd only been here for 2.5 weeks at that point. So that was on the Thursday. Didn't hear or think about it at all over the weekend. Monday morning, I get a phone call from somebody or a text message saying, I'm going to the store to get hurricane supplies. Would you like a ride? And I'm like, you're going to the where to get what now? Like what? What? And so I didn't have any warning. Monday was when we found out about it. Monday, I did all of my how do you survive a hurricane research? like, what do we need to get? Where do we need to go? What do we need to be aware of? How do we button down the hatches on this house that isn't mine, that I'm taking care of for somebody else? And then Tuesday morning was when we got all the spaghetti review. If you haven't ever dealt with a hurricane, you have these things called spaghetti charts where it looks like spaghetti. Someone's throwing spaghetti at a page because it's all of the different weather services saying, we think it's going to go this way, we think it's going to go this way, we think it's going to go this way, and up till sort of like a few days out, a lot of time it's all over the place, and then all of a sudden, normally what happens is they coalesce, and all of a sudden it's almost like a straight line. You can see where it's going. Tuesday morning was when we saw that straight line, and it was coming straight for the island, and we went, shit, we got to get the hell out of Dodge. So I remember on the Tuesday, we'd also found out there was a mandatory evacuation order on the Wednesday morning, which meant that everybody was supposed to leave the island 8 a.m. Wednesday morning. This is Tuesday, which means that we have to get out, and we have to get out. Bear in mind that everybody else is trying to get out at the same time on the same road. It's not looking fun. It's not looking like a good idea. So I remember on the Tuesday, while I was packing up in the bedroom, I remember having that moment of thinking, and it was probably for the first time in my life to this extent, I may not live through this. There is a possibility, depending on how this goes, I may not make it out to the other side of this situation. And it was an incredibly sobering thought. And I remember my heart fell through the floor and my stomach dropped. And I remember thinking, at that point, we were on a mission. We had to get everything done to be able to get out of the house, to get us with the best chance of safety as quickly as possible. And in that moment, I remember going, can't think about that right now. Get the fuck on with it. And I remember going back into okay, mission mode. We've got to get everything done. Let's It wasn't until I was evacuated, and we're probably talking maybe 5 days later from this moment, that I remember sitting on the edge of the lake where I was evacuated and allowing myself to process that feeling. because at that point it was safe for me to process that feeling. It wasn't going to impact my immediate physical safety for me to do so. If I'd fallen apart on the Tuesday, I might have done. So you got to find your moments within that where it's like, okay, right now I have to get this done because this is part of my being resourced, part of me taking care of my household. Because also it's not necessarily, especially like someone like Serena's situation, her household, they have Daz, who is a dependent, obviously. He hasn't learned to fend for himself and open up the cat food for him by himself yet, because if he had, he'd be a bigger cat than he is now, I'll tell you that much. But outside of that, Serena and Joe are together. Serena and Joe are both adults. They're both responsible for their own needs.
You sure?
I use the term loosely. Less said about that, the better. Leaving that over there. Could say so many things right now. I mean,
me too.
They're incredibly fun adults,
too.
like technical adults. Technically, they're adults. They're lots of fun though. Which means that like Serena doesn't have to take care of Joe's needs, but there is that mutual kind of community support that happens between them as a couple, because if Joe's really struggling with something, and it's going to cause an impact. Oh, when Daz is back, apparently he's all about the podcast today. Then that could have an impact on their household, could have an impact on Serena. So there is this kind of like, how do we support each other? We're not taking care of each other's needs necessarily, but there is this support that happens. And so once we are supported, and we've supported the people who are around us, then we can start to kind of focus a little bit further outside of that. And it is important when you start to focus outside of that, to focus on what you can do. It's so common in these situations for people to focus on what they can't do. And like to feel despondent and feel helpless. Like, I can't do this. I can't change that. I can't do, like, I'll tell you, it's like one of the hardest things in hurricane season is like, you're hoping that a storm doesn't kind of hit you, but you also don't want it to hit anyone else. Like and there's nothing you can do about it. Like it is. Mother Nature is what it is. I felt like you were going to say something then.
I was, but I forgot it. So keep going. Maybe it'll come back.
Yeah, it's so important to focus on what you can do rather than like get stuck on what you can't. Because like so often it's like, there's nothing I can do. I feel helpless. And it's like, okay, well, what can you do? How can you support? Like, so even if you can't change the weather situation, for example, could you donate to local food pantries that might be able to help people who are struggling from food insecurity and having to deal with the storm? Is there something you can do to help, I don't know, volunteer for a local shelter or something? I don't know that, and it may be that you can't do that, but what you can do is you can take care of the people and the support within. You have the capacity to support the people who are immediately around you. What can we do within this? And maybe we can share information, because sometimes when there are storms, maybe, I mean, I was talking to a restaurant last week, I think it was, or the week before. They were saying during Hurricane Irma, they had one of the few landlines in the city, and all of the communication networks were down except for landlines. So people were literally calling the restaurant and leaving messages for people who were on the island, and people on the island were queuing up to use the landline to let their friends and family know. That was something they could do. Like, it wasn't, it might not have seemed like this huge thing, like you can use our phone, but actually you can use our phone when there's only like 3 of them on the island that are working. That's a big deal. So it's like it's so easy. And again, it's like when we get into this space, it's so easy to drop into the anxiety and to get overwhelmed with that sense of like helplessness and hopelessness. And it's so important in those moments. If you haven't listened to it, go back to the Shape series and look at what you can do to go into the creator approach, even in the context of what is going on. Like, what can I do? What are the things what do I want to create in this context, in this reality, in this moment, that's going to maybe make a difference to me? Maybe it's going to make a difference to my family. Maybe it's going to make a difference to my community, and focus there. Because when you do that, it shifts and changes your, I can't explain. It makes such a difference. Like the difference between me going, I don't know what I can do about anything that's going on in the world right now, and me going, I could put out a podcast episode where somebody doesn't feel alone in this, because they go, even they're feeling it. Okay. And what can I do? Here's the things that I did when I'm dealing with crises that are beyond my control. That's something I can do. I might not be able to do a huge amount more than that, but I can do that. And there may be other things I can do. And once I've done that thing, then I can focus on what's the next thing. And then I can focus on what's the next thing. And then I can focus on what's the next thing. And then it might be like, okay, I've done a lot of stuff now. Now I need to go back to replenishing myself and taking care of myself so I can continue to help. I can continue to support my community. I can continue to be a part of moving the dial in the direction that I want it to go in. I don't know. I'm hoping this is helpful. Like it's at a time when there's a lot that is feeling very big and very outside of our control. I know for me that getting back to basics and starting there and doing that, like if you go back to listen to the What to Do When You're Struggling, when you're really struggling episode, and look at like, what are the small steps? What are the small wins? Like those are the things to focus on. If you know what your needs are and you know how to meet them, if you've been through the program yourself, go back to your needs practice and start there. Because it's funny, I hadn't been doing it daily because I've been doing other things. And I went back to doing it daily this week. And it's funny, I got on with Serena this morning and I was like, well, shit, this fucking works. Like it's so annoying. And when I'm like, every now and again, I'm like, and just the difference that I feel from taking care of myself through doing that needs practice every day for just 3 days. I mean, I'm still taking care of my needs the rest of the time. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still working on it. I'm still doing my needs practice, maybe not every day, but even now I might go back to doing it every day. And I'm like, well, shit. It's kind of like, that's the reason we're here talking right now.
Funny how that happens, huh?
And it is like, sometimes it's easy to forget how much it works.
And one thing I want to kind of mention is Claire had mentioned doing the thing, like, what can you do now in this moment? And there was a point in my life where I'd get ahead of myself and I'd be like, well, what I can do is, and I'd lay out this magical plan for what I would be able to do.
This, then this, then this, then this, then this. Then
yeah.
this.
And like the plan wouldn't come to fruition, like, you know, for another day, week, month, years, decades, whatever it is. But doing something in the like actually like taking an action that meets your needs in the moment is like it gives you that little bit of like, okay, and next. Like sometimes it's just getting to the next step. Like that's the reality of it. It's not about, it's, you know, the it's not a sprint, it's a marathon type of, it's true. It's one foot in front of the other. And then sometimes we do something and then we can get stuck for a minute maybe in the chaos of life, or a situation comes in that you weren't expecting and it's like, okay, all right, what can I do? All right, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to do this for myself. And it starts adding up and it really, really does help. Like,
and the flip side of that is, was that the end of the sentence?
That was the end of the sentence.
I was like, it sounded like there could have been more. I was like, let me just check before I go on. The other thing to think about this is also to look at the flip side of it. It's like, also, in addition to what can I do that's going to support myself, what are the things that I'm doing right now that aren't supporting me? And are there other things I can do that are going to make a big difference?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Because we fall into conditioning and bad habits and things that, you know, give us that instant hit of like, ooh, I feel good. Like, yeah, sometimes a pint of Ben and Jerry's seems like the best idea, but in the grander
and
scheme
sometimes
of
it is.
And usually on the grander scheme of my needs, it actually isn't meeting them as well as I thought it was, and it was negatively impacting. And doing a simple switch. I mean, I'm talking about ice cream here. Like, I'm not saying we solve the world's problems with ice cream, but have we tried that? Like maybe we should give that a try.
I mean,
but like, honestly,
Ben and Jerry, I think they should, they would do I think if we put them in charge of a lot of things, then things would be a lot better. I'm just saying. But also I think that like, it's looking at where is the, like, sometimes we can be very black and white with this and very kind of binary on off. So it's like, I know that there's a lot of people who are like, you tend to get like two extremes of people when there's kind of big things that are going on in the world. Like, you have the ones who want to know everything, they want to be informed about everything so that they know what they're dealing with, and then the others who want their head in the sand, who don't want to hear anything because it's all scary and everything. And the truth of the matter is that both of those extremes can negatively impact your needs. So it's about like figuring out, how do you do the things that you need to do? So it's like, if you're the person who needs to know, I'm a person who needs to know. I need to know what's going on so that I know what I'm dealing with. And I'm, generally speaking, I would say probably more informed than most of the people like in our inner circle, like in our circle of people, because I like to know what's going on so I know what I'm dealing with, and I can make my choices according to what the current information is. Now, being somebody who wants to know what's going on, the downside of that is sometimes I can get sucked into a rabbit hole of where I've been like watching TikToks for like 3 hours. So I stay on top of what is going on, where actually all I'm getting is the same information over and over and over again. And actually that's not supporting me anymore. So sometimes it can be like, okay, so how can I still get what I need in this while minimizing the negative impact? So it's like, okay, maybe what I do is I put some time limits on what I'm going to do. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch TikToks about, because my TikTok is what I generally speaking, my TikTok tends to be about current events. So I'm like, it's like, if I want silly cat videos, I go to Instagram. If I'm wanting to find out what's going on in the world, I tend to go to TikTok, because of the people, how I've curated my feeds in those different places to be able to see that. And so I maybe will limit my time. I'm like, okay, I got like 15 minutes where I'm going to scroll on TikTok 15 minutes, and then I'm going to put it down. I'm going to go do something else, and I'm going to do something that's going to resource me in those ways that I'm being drained from watching those videos. So it's like, okay, so what is it? So maybe I know what's going on, and there's an element of security in knowing what's going on, but also with some of the chaos going on in the world right now, I feel less secure about what's going on. So, okay, now what I do is I go and I take care of my security needs. So I'm like, okay, right here, right now, like, what am I doing? Do I need to make any plans? Okay, here's the things that I'm going to do to meet my security need in those moments. So the flip side of that is the person who doesn't know anything about what's going on, but then the anxiety, because you don't know what's going on, can also then undermine your needs and negatively impact you, because you then don't know what's going on to be able to make choices accordingly. So again, maybe you say, okay, I don't want to be watching the news for hours on end, but maybe I go and I scroll a news site for 10 minutes a day, just so I can see, I can get a snapshot of what's going on. And then if there's something in particular I feel like I need to know about it, I can give myself 5 minutes to go and like literally look up that one specific thing to find out what's going on. So again, we're like finding that way of finding a little bit of balance in these situations. And like, especially if you're in this kind of feeling of things being out of control, we can tend to get into these, as Serena says, these bad habits, something that's going to give us a dopamine hit, something that's going to give us like something that it's kind of like the ironically, it's like the ice cream of behavior, if you like, where it's going to feel good like while you're doing it, and if you keep doing it, there's an element of it feeling good until you stop, and then you go, oh, maybe that wasn't the best idea. So it's like figuring out, how do I get the good from it? So maybe I allow myself like a couple of spoonfuls. But then I go, right, well, now what am I really looking for? Now, because am I just trying to get more of that hit? So what hit is what need am I trying to get met through that hit? And how do I go and meet that need in a different way that maybe isn't going to come with a negative consequence? So it's like looking at those behaviors, and we have an episode on like how to shift bad habits. So if you like notice, like something that tends to happen a lot when things feel out of control is people tend to stay up late, and they tend to either spend a lot of time scrolling or watching some kind of streaming or TV or movies or something. And a lot of that is because in the absence of being able to control anything else, they want to be able to control this bubble. Like, I want some time where I can feel like it's me time, where I get to do the things I'm wanting to do because I'm in control of that. Yes, and there may be downsides to that are costing you. And there might be other ways of you building that in and finding ways of fulfilling that without the negative consequences that go along with it. Anything else you want to add before we kind of close up for today?
I'm good.
No, I think this has been, I'm glad that we did this because it feels like relevant to what's going on in the world right now. And and we just wanted you to know, like, we're in it with you. And if there are specific things that you're struggling with the stuff that's going on in the world right now, if you're dealing with anxiety, we already did an episode on anxiety. In fact, we've got multiple episodes on anxiety. You can go and listen to those already. But if there's something they're like, okay, you've done an episode on anxiety, but what about this element of anxiety? Feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to record episodes specific to what people need. In fact, we prefer to. It's like if there's something specific that's up for people and it's like, okay, absolutely, let's get that recorded because we want to make sure that you have the resources to be able to navigate these challenging times. So I'm glad that we've kind of named the thing as the thing and talked about how it's not easy for anybody. And by taking those small steps to take care of your kind of base level needs and using that as the basis to figure out what your next steps are, that's certainly the way of operating that I found has worked really well for me. I know that it works really well for Serena, and it seems to work really well for the clients we've worked with. So I think that that's a good starting place. And we will be back next time with another episode, which I think we'll probably end up we're gonna kind of talk about the thing I nearly talked about earlier on the episode, and we'll get back to that because it's also relevant to challenging times. So thank you for listening today. Thank you for being here and being a part of this with us, being a part of this conversation. Even it's funny, like I remember we had a listener say to us very early on that they feel like when they listen to our podcast, they feel like they're sat on the couch having a conversation with us. And I hope that's how it's felt today because we are all in this together. We'll be back next week with a new episode. But between then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review,
as it will help more people find us.
And remember, when there's a lot going on and there's big things that might seem out of your control, it's important to go back to basics, to take care of your most basic needs so you have the resources to navigate everything else ahead.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.